Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Majitana Bungwana, welcome to it. Is another edition of Sporting 101. And yes, definitely we're going to chat rugby for sure, because things happened this past weekend, man. And you know what? In my head, I'm trying to figure out, are people, the sleeves, whatever that was shoved in there, is it coming out now? We're starting to see who's who in the zoo, where we're going, Are we starting to see tech? I've got Eddie in the studio, Mzansi Flavor, Baba, Edwin Shooter in the house. And I also got Tebogo Masemola, Buddha.
Hey, man.
How you doing, gents? How you doing?
Oh, it's lekker. Thanks for having us again. It's good being here with the team again. It's good having my main man here. They call him my left hand man.
Yeah.
So it's good having him here as well. He's got the rugby knowledge. He always says he's the plate, I'm the food inside of the plate.
Oh, that's interesting.
We need to have him there.
That's really interesting. Tebza?
Oh, man. Big Zo, nice to be here. Back again.
Yeah.
After this past weekend, I started losing hair, as everyone can see. I thought I should get that out of the way first. But it's definitely good to be back, man.
Yeah.
Another session, and we go back at it again.
Where did you check out the game this weekend? Where did you check out the game?
Oh, no, I checked the game out in Pretoria.
Yeah.
So, I had to go there. An incident at home with moms that's a bit sick. So, I was in Pretoria, but I got to watch the game with the whole family, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Eddie, where did you check out the game?
Yeah, well, I did the same. Right here in the City of Roses, the old people came to visit, and it's always good to just wind down on a Saturday evening. Yeah. I was glad that the game was on a Saturday and not on a Sunday, even though it was long weekend.
Yeah.
But it's super great to have rugby on a Saturday again.
For sure. The World Cup even.
I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, but before we get there, right, there was something, as much as we were enjoying the World Cup, some were enjoying football, your MTN 8 and all of that. In Bloom, we had the international softball tournament that was happening at Clive Solomon in Heidedal. It played for 4 days. It was quite interesting. I've never watched softball. I've never been into softball. It was my first encounter now with the sport up close and personal, and I can tell you, I enjoyed that sport. But what is most importantly, we had a conversation with the president of Softball South Africa just to find out how's the sport doing, throughout the country, not only in the Free State where this tournament was hosted. So this is what he had to say. So I'll trust Shimza to play us that clip where I was having that conversation with the president of softball in South Africa. And it is very important to make sure that before softball in South Africa, that there Mashilo Mazitela, who's next to me. And that Mashilo, good day and welcome to Free State Online Channel.
Thank you very much, Free State Online Channel. We are happy to be hosted.
Dada Mashilo, listen, first of all, how do you feel about this 4 days? The success I've seen here. It was amazing to see so many teams play, at one place. This was amazing. How do you feel about the whole organizing of this tournament?
I feel good because the tournament has been a success. Here in Free State, the number of clubs that came here, there was a growth in terms of the number of clubs. We had clubs from Botswana, we have clubs from Lesotho, and even in our country, we have got an increase in the number of clubs that participated as opposed to last year.
Yeah. In terms of the game itself, across the country, how's it doing in terms of growth? Are we seeing kids playing it in schools? Are we seeing clubs coming in and requesting to be a part of the game? And the consistency of the clubs that exist within your structures, how's that going?
It's going very well. I just want to quote Free State as a province. Free State as a province they're busy with the selection of a provincial team that will be participating in the National Schools Tournament coming up in December. And again, here in Free State, we have seen a growth in number of clubs. So, and then there's a league running here in Free State. And again, in the whole country, we're running leagues, provinces. We have national championships, and we have inter-club championships. The sport is growing. I'm happy.
In terms of sponsorships, because we know, I mean, I can imagine to host, 33 teams, I mean, 800 beds, these teams have to travel here, transport is used. Are sponsors coming in to boost, the game, because we need that as well?
Yes, we do. We do have sponsors in kind, not yet in monetary terms, but we have the commitments by clubs, people who pop up their money to come and play here. And I must say that in terms of sports tourism, this month we contributed a lot to the province of Free State. We have taken a number of beds, and today we're celebrating heritage, and we're looking forward to the private sector to continue to support our sport, monetary and otherwise.
Finally, Tate Mashilo, I loved what I've seen here. And low key, I thought to myself, if I was still young in school, I would definitely pick softball because it has got nothing to do with how big, how small you are. I've seen pitches quite big and throwing some nice, making sure that they dismantle the batsmen right there. What would be your message to young kids that can come in and play the game? What would you say to them? Because we need youngins to come in and play to make sure that the sport continues.
I would say, in particular to Free State, let them follow softball leagues. Every weekend, league games playing here, and let them follow. This is the sport that teach young kids discipline and academia. Lots of people that we have seen playing today are in their own right academics. They are professionals. They're middle class.
Yeah.
But we saw them playing. That's one thing that softball gives you. It gives you life after 35 years.
Most definitely. I spoke to a lady who's been playing softball for 40 years and she's 76. I was like, yo, and she was having a time of her life. So we really thank you, El Presidente, for what you're doing with your team, for bringing this tournament to the Free State. But most importantly, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you very much. We are in this thing together.
Ayo, this is equivalent Sputnik Marutin, and we are behind the scenes of Patko's show with Rugby. Don't forget, every Sunday at 6 o'clock, FS Online, baby. We're bringing you the nice interviews, funny, relaxed, family orientated. So come and join us, because me, Uncle is here, baby. See you there, FS Online, this Sunday. Enak kita.
There is and Bigs of P, the greatest is my name. And earlier on, I told you that I've got guests in the studio. We introduced them. They're familiar to your faces because we did the first show with them. And I'm talking about none other than Eddie as well as Tebogo. And when they're here, it's rugby all the way. We're talking rugby. Good things, good sport. I was laughing. Someone said to me, rugby is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport.
Yeah, definitely.
Very true.
Listen. What was your view of all the matches this weekend?
Well, yes, there was
the ones that you basically got to catch.
Got to catch. Well, I really try and catch all of the matches on the weekly basis. Try and, because it's only every 4 years. You need to catch all of the action that you can, and it all started for me with Italy up against Uruguay.
Yeah,
Italy played some good rugby. They're looking a quality side. I'm thinking that the All Blacks and France have to look out for them.
Yeah,
they can still sneak through one way or another. And our poor noisy neighbours, Namibia, taking that 96-0 loss, absolutely atrocious. Australia going down again. I think probably the match of the weekend should go to Georgia, Portugal, that 18-all draw. I didn't catch that, unfortunately, and I wish I did. And then, of course, the Springboks match. I didn't miss a bit of it. I sat in and watched the whole thing.
How could you have missed that one? Number one and number two.
It was really a tight encounter. But I think for me, the game that really stood out for me, not just in terms of, I look back at the All Blacks playing against New Zealand game. How we all knew that New Zealand was going to win. But then with Namibia, what happened was that Ethan de Groot got a red card in that game. And then the same thing, now you look at the game between Namibia and France, and then you have Anton Dupont now who goes in for surgery. For surgery, and now he's potentially going to play the World Cup with a mask on if they make it to the quarters and semis and all that stuff. So for me, that game, it just stood out for the little things, for the little things that were in that game. And then, of course, I think the Springboks and, Ireland game, we watched that. But the other game was, Eddie Jones and his Australian side. I was thinking now, with everyone, the way that they were speaking, the game was close for like 50 minutes. The game was close. It was penalty. And then all of a sudden, something that Eddie Jones, I think, is too proud to admit, is that experience kicked in. There's something that you call championship rounds. They even, and the nice thing is that I heard this championship round things from a soccer game where they said that it comes with it's those last 10 minutes of the first half, the last 10 minutes of the second half. Those are your championship rounds. And Australia just couldn't do it in the last championship rounds in that game because they didn't have the experience. They got a very young side, relatively young, but the experienced players are actually sitting in a podcast situation like we are right now. They're two experienced players. So, yeah.
But listen, I want to start there. Though it's a fairly young squad, right? What we know about top clubs in the world in any sport, they always have a good development. When they bring even younger players, they can compete. Like, it's against the big clubs where if you were saying Australia is with a young squad is not going to play the Springboks or the All Blacks, that's where you'll say, okay, we expect them to fumble there and there. But what is going on with Australian rugby as a whole?
I don't necessarily think there's something going. Okay, well, I think it is. There's something, and I think it started when we got the Super Rugby thing split, when there was a Super Rugby split, So if you didn't know, the New Zealand side, your Chiefs, your Crusaders, play against your Waratahs and all those teams that are in Australia. So the only competition that these Australian sides and the New Zealand side have is against each other. You understand what I mean? So they're pretty much limited in terms of the opposition. I mean, you can so many times before you need to start going for other opposition. So Australia, from them setting themselves apart from that, I think that's where they lost it, and it's starting to come back and bite them. I think definitely before the next World Cup, we might have something where we all come back together again. Maybe, I'm not sure. And then another thing as well, I think just Eddie Jones, I think he lost the change room, somewhat. And he's got very young players, he's got young players. And, the thing about him going to an interview for the Japan job a week before they go and play in the World Cup, definitely it's something that can cause you to lead your players to just, somewhat be like, well, if he's doing that, then who are we to go and show what we have on the field? You know what I mean?
Listen, I want to give a viewer at home who doesn't understand why we're talking about Australia right now, right? Australia, one would expect them to actually go all the way to the quarters if anything goes wrong with the history that they have in the game. They should be knocked out in the quarters. Eddie, I just want you to give someone an idea. How bad is it for Australia? Because they're in a situation where somebody needs to beat somebody. Bafana vibes, if you get me.
Yeah.
Bafana vibes. Well, if you look at it, interesting stat that I read, this is the 10th Rugby World Cup that's been played. And this is the first time ever that the three of South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia have lost a pool match, and all three of them, it's never happened before. So it is quite a bad thing. And if you look at Australia, they've won 2 World Cups. They've always made at least the quarterfinals. And there's that chance that they're not going to make the quarterfinals at the moment. As you said, they need someone to beat someone. What I think is, and where I sort of disagree, I would say, with Tebogo is that I don't think he's lost the change room. Yes, if he's gone for that Japan interview, how true that is, we don't know.
Yeah.
What I think is he's looking forward in two years' time, they're going to have the tour of the British and Irish Lions, which is a massive, once every 4 years thing, where all of the British Islands come together and they form a team. It's between England, Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. And so, of course, the Springboks won that series back in 2021. And their next target is now going to Australia. So I'm thinking that Eddie Jones is eyeing that. And then 2 years later, in 2027, Australia hosting the World Cup. So I'm thinking that he says, he said in an interview, he knew that he was not going to win the World Cup with the group that he had. And I sort of have to agree with him. He didn't have quality players to win the World Cup. So what is he doing? He's giving them experience at a World Cup. They're tasting that defeat. So they know what it tastes like. So they know what they need to work towards. A guy like a Carter Gordon is young. I'm giving you my word that in a few years' time, he's going to be a top class flyer. Just giving the time to develop.
I think as well, when we go back to that point, I think once again, I'll have to disagree, in terms of, I'll definitely disagree. And you'll know, coming from, the fact that we both coaches and all that stuff, we coach relatively young players and all of that, with players, whether it's a professional or not, you have to give them, you need to be believable. You know what I'm saying? And most of the times where there is smoke, there's fire. You understand what I mean? Like you said now, yes, the prep for the British and Irish Lions tour, that can be the thing where it's like, okay, well, he's looking to build and all of that stuff. But you look at how it's going. And I once had a chat with one of the coaches that I coach with and say that Eddie Jones' period of coaching at that level in terms of World Cup, I think you have basically an 8-year span where you can coach there for 8 years.
Yeah, they call it a life on the shelf, a shelf life.
Yes, a shelf life, and it's basically 8 years. Yeah, so I think it's
so 8 years is like what, 2 World Cups?
Yeah. And then you sort of rugby changes so much, and I'll get into that a bit later of how I'm seeing rugby change in front of my eyes at this current World Cup, and it's a thing that changes, the tactics, and it's in any sport. It's that way. A guy like if I need to look at football, Pep Guardiola is amazing at what he does. Yeah, he's got the financial backing, but he knows how to use his players. There's going to be a time where someone else is going to come into the Premier League and they're going to dominate them, because then what he's done is becoming irrelevant.
Yeah,
true. Listen, let's jump to the one that's the most important, the one that South Africans are sitting there just asking themselves, what happened? And with that question being asked, one is like, what are our chances, in this World Cup? And because as much as Ireland is number one, I don't think South Africans thought that we would lose to Ireland.
Yeah, well, I think we believed in that. But if you go and look closely, South Africa didn't play with the characteristics that we used to see. We ran the ball out of our own half. We didn't kick as much. We took silly penalties where we actually knew we didn't have the players to go for posts. We said, listen,
let's go for posts.
I mean, Faf de Klerk taking a 50, what was it?
56
meter kick. I mean, where in your life have you seen that? Playing out of your own half. Giving the ball air, playing it to the wings from your own half. I've never seen that before. What I am thinking is that there's a lot of positives to take out of this.
Yeah.
We defended quite well. I think, the try that we conceded, it's sorry about that, but we defended well. We played a good brand of rugby. We played interesting rugby, entertaining rugby. So I don't think we're out of this World Cup. Actually, I think we didn't care that much. And Tebogo will say, Edouard, I'm agreeing with you now. I'm agreeing with you now on this point where they didn't care about losing.
Sorry to cut you there, but I like I mentioned earlier, have you ever seen a side care less than after that loss? It was just like, okay.
You know what? When I saw that, I went as far back as when Eddie was saying, "Look, it's a case of who would you rather meet in the quarterfinals? Do you wanna come against France? Do you wanna come against New Zealand?" And I started thinking, maybe they were just taking a back seat, just letting Ireland do. But what is it that Ireland did right against South Africa? Also, because we can't take that away. They're number one, team in the world, and there are people that were saying physically they matched South Africa.
I think in a way, physically, but I think they dominated at the breakdown point. So, for our viewers back home, not really understanding the term breakdown, that's when a tackle has taken place and when the players go to ground. And you've got a maybe a split second to a second where someone needs to react and protect the ball or steal the ball. And I think they dominated us there. And we can actually now see the effects of not having a guy like Malcolm Marx in the team, who of course got injured, which we talked about. Him being one of the players that are excellent when it comes to the ground, when it comes to the breakdown. So I think, Tebogo, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think that's where they dominated us on the weekend.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent they did, and like you mentioned now, in terms of the breakdown, they really did. They were on top of us. It's just that I keep forgetting his name with the red scrum cap.
Josh van der Flier.
Yeah, Josh van der Flier. He was absolutely amazing. Like there's something that we call in terms of like the lineup, in terms of the breakdown, that when a player goes down, we call it Vors, and he was vorsing every single ruck. The moment where there was a breakdown, he would just come in there and clean everyone away, and you could see their confidence starts to pick up, especially when now the likes of Eben were getting on the ball, and then they would just go in. It was one tackle, but that one tackle on that kind of player shows you that it's a side that was very confident. But you look at it again when we put on the likes of Ox and your Trevor, we scrummed them to pieces. So they had dominance in certain, but like you said, we didn't play with the characteristics that we normally have. You normally don't touch our breakdowns.
And the funny thing is, Josh van der Flier has been so silent in this World Cup. He was the 2022 World Rugby Player of the Year. In that first two fixtures, I think in the first one he didn't play. In the second one, he didn't really feature. And then when that game came, so he's a guy with absolute BMT. So that big match temperament comes naturally to a guy like Josh van der Flier.
Look, people were starting to talk about money again. Saying we should have put Andre Pollard in there instead of him. What do you guys make of that? And I'm saying this because of what you guys are saying to say. I mean, it looked like South Africa didn't really, they were not really about this match. Even if Ireland won, they just didn't care. But you have people that watch rugby now going at players, going, what was Faf doing in this game? Where was Faf in this game? Where was Money? What was, picking on players? What do you think of his performance? Do you think, should he be the guy to be sacrificed for Andre Pollard to come in?
Well, he's the only guy that you can sacrifice.
It's the only position.
Unless you want to do an England where they play Farrell on 12 now and then, and you do that, but I don't think him coming out of injury, Andre Pollard, you don't really want to risk him playing a position like 12 or 13 or even fullback. You don't want to take Damian Willems out. So honestly, if I need to say what to do, I would say you start Manie Libbok and you have Andre Pollard on the bench, because you want that brilliance that Manie Libbok gives your backline. Just the magic where he finds his wings with cross kicks, where he gets the backline on the move. He's just exceptional when it comes to that. He even put on a few hits. I don't know if you saw that. He took down guys like, he was in the mix when they had to take down Bundiaki.
He played amazing, huh?
Bundiaki is just, he's beast. Different
level of beast. Yeah.
But I need to be honest with you. It was just that one break in the match. The rest of the time he was kept silent. And it was one missed tackle by, I think it was Jesse Creel. So I'm not saying we need to get him out of the lineup. I just think that start with him, get that flair from the start, get the points, get the tries, and then you bring Andre Pollard on second half, and you get him to go for goals. So unfortunately, then you're going to have to play a 5-3 split on the bench. Are they willing to risk that? Well, only time will tell.
I have to say, literally, 5 hours or 4 hours before, I would have, somewhat agreed with what you were saying in terms of who to start and all that stuff. But so we were going through squad selection for this coming weekend and all of that stuff. And the physiotherapist said to us that the player that's coming from injury, you rather want to start with him because starting with him, so you rather start with Andre Pollard because in case he gets injured again or the same injury that's giving him problems strikes again, you can substitute him for a player that that can last the whole game. You know what I mean? But I think, for
But in that case, you still need to play that 5-3 split on the bench.
That's the
Because
problem.
then you're going to have to have a guy like Mane Libbok in your side because you need a recognized
and a 9. And then
and a 9
utility.
and an out and a utility back. So
it's
a
tough.
risky thing.
Yeah, it's tough. But all in all, I think when we mention how the Springbok, I think to not care or care less or not to give anything for the game is a bit harsh, in terms of the words to use. But I think, like Eddie said in the beginning, they didn't really play to their characteristics, analyze the game. And not even analyze, but a basic rugby fan will watch that game and be like, this is not, firstly, the Springboks that people talk about.
Yep.
And secondly, this is not how they can play. So, yes, Money missed, Faf missed, but when you look at a side like the Springboks, we always say that 3 points is an option. We rather go for more and then try and do so. But once again, they chose to go for a kick from 56 meters away, and then they try to, see if they can get that. It doesn't really make sense. So, no. Just let Money do his thing.
Which brings me to another thing that I picked up as I was watching that game. It's like our defense was more focused than our attack. When you looked at how they were defending, it's like this was like a practice match. But in terms of our attack, are we at the top of our game yet, or we still need to put in work?
I don't think we're on top with anything. You saying that our attack and our defense, Alex Ferguson always said that attack wins you matches and your defense wins you titles. And I honestly believe in that, and it comes to rugby as well. If you've got that defense set and you know how to defend, you're good. And then you just need to get the points. So you need to work on that attack. So yeah, definitely we need to work a bit on that. I think especially when we have a line out and we're mauling, I think we need to work on that as well a bit. But honestly, I think there's a lot of positives we can take out.
We are to face Tonga, right?
In our next match.
In that game, what should be the focus now? Because from there, we're going to, the quarters where now it's one chance, chance only.
Yeah, I think the game against Tonga, even though everyone is expecting us to win that game, for some reason I have this nervousness inside of me because of what happened with Japan when we played them last time, and I'm like, well, we need to win Tonga. We need to beat them.
But do you know what happened in 2007 against Tonga? Also in France.
Yeah.
We almost lost against Tonga.
Yeah.
We beat them 30-25. We almost lost to them.
That's
so
insane.
There's that aspect as well.
So there's that thing. So, but yeah, I think in the game against Tonga, I think that will be, for me, I think that would kind of be like Rassi's little lights that he uses. I think that would be a nice little tester just to put in Andre Pollard, who's coming from injury. Just to put him in, let him play, give him a nice little 50 or 40 minutes, see how he hangs, and then after that, make the change with Money, let him come back in, and then after that, we see,
give an opportunity to Kane and Moody again, I think, on outside centre. Maybe start Dion Fourie on hooker.
Yeah.
See how he takes the pressure of that. I think you need to go with a guy like Kobus Reinach again. That guy needs to play more rugby.
And he plays that side, so in terms of everything, he's used to it, and he's just got that thing, man. There's some of those. He's got that, that X factor. He's got that thing that when he's on the pitch, you always feel like something is possible. He's like a Grant Williams, but just with more experience. You know what I mean?
So do you believe we still have something up our sleeves, or
definitely
with those two as coaches? Well, always.
I said that to you at the last show.
Yeah,
we've got something. Something is coming. honestly. And I can see that with France as well. So, you know, with the Mauls, I see that in the last few weeks, there's really no movement, forward movement with the Mauls. So what France has done is they use their hooker in a different way. He comes around the line out and then he gives inside pop passes, which opens the gap there. So everyone goes in and sets for the maul. Portugal scored the same try. I don't know if you recall watching Portugal
against Wales.
They scored that exact same try just on the blind side. So the French hooker Malvaka comes around and then he's got two options. Or he's going to play forward or he's going to give the inside pop pass to one of the wings as well.
Man, I like the fact that you're using France as an example because it's the team that we most. Who has a better chance, like to progress to the next round?
Well,
If you
50-50 actually
have, you know, Kaizer Chiefs go, Mamelodi Sundowns is supposed to win.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it's going to be. It's going to be loud. It's going to be an away fixture for us. You know, Stade de France is going to have 80,000 or what people in that stadium watching. And that's the risk that you're running there. You're going to have all of these French people. So, honestly, I think we can move past. But it's going to be a very, very tough match.
I definitely think it's gonna be a tough one. But you know, for some reason, I think, you know, in terms of how we play and all of that stuff, you know what? There's a video of Rassi's field.
Yeah.
For that game, we need to go and break him. We need to suffocate him, and all of us. You know, all these teams are the same. You know, South Africa or the Springboks for me are the only team in the World Cup. And maybe Eds can say that there's another one because, you know, I'm focusing now on the box alone. I say that the Springboks are the only team that from 1 to 15 you are like, I need to focus on each and every single player. But you go to teams like France and you watch how France played their game. Take that man out, suffocate him, and that's what I think.
That's exactly what we tried to do. We just didn't do it successfully.
Yeah, but I think,
but you also have New Zealand that's most likely going to face Ireland, right? And everyone has been looking at New Zealand like since they lost to France. When you look at Ireland that played the Springboks and you look at New Zealand that's still in the World Cup and still playing and lost against France, what do you make of that match when those teams come together?
Honestly, as a rugby spectator, I hope that the All Blacks come into the party. I really hope they sort out what they need to sort out and they come to play. And if they beat them, they beat them. If they beat Ireland, we are definitely going to play them in the final. I think the winner of that match, Ireland and New Zealand, the winner of that match is going to go to the final because they need to play the winner of, at this moment, someone like England and Fiji.
Or Australia if they do make it.
No.
Or Australia if they do make it. Listen,
let's be honest. Like, I don't know. Miracles are things of the Bible. At this point,
this is what they want. I definitely do think that Fiji and New Zealand game. You know, I love that we're already predicting and who's making it into the quarterfinals. I love it. But I think as well, whoever makes it out of the France and Springbok game is also going to the final. I think that the final I think is going to be between Pool A and Pool B, and I definitely think that if we make it out of that group and New Zealand make it out of that group, we're playing New Zealand in the final.
And you know, there's a very strong possibility, if it stays like this at the moment, that the same four teams that played in the 2019 semi-finals can play exactly the same fixture in this World Cup. There's a strong possibility that South Africa can go and play Wales in the semi-final and England play New Zealand in the other semi-final. Now, just imagine that. Just imagine England come and beat New Zealand. We all threw them away. I mean, that's going to be crazy stuff.
I'm fine with that. Just let history repeat itself then. Then we take the World Cup once again.
Take it back to Yokohama.
I'll be fine. Yokohama, Japan. Oh, goodness me.
that would be beautiful to see. But
it would be so nice.
But I want a final that, you know, that gives me chills when I watch it.
But what's going to give us as South Africans chills? Us against the All Blacks. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A haka before a World Cup final.
Yeah.
It's just going to give us chills, man. In France.
But New Zealand, they must stop doing that thing, man. It's not like exciting.
Can I tell you with the New Zealand haka? Now I've been watching how they've been doing the haka. Every game that they've played.
Yeah.
And the games leading up to the World Cup, and everyone knows how the haka is. It's that it's a challenge, okay? And until the game against Namibia, and I know we expected them to win, but something's changed a bit from the haka. There's less playing around. So you don't see all the moving their heads left and right and sticking their tongues out and looking up into the air. It's more focused. It's a more focused haka, and that's what gives me that thing of like, okay, we're ready to see something now. Okay, because that's what happened, I think, in 2013 with the Tana Umanga and all those guys before that, where they were like, it's getting too much. It feels more like every time they do a haka, it feels like it's a game.
Yeah.
And they need to start taking it back. And I think that's what they're starting to do now, is that they're just starting to just focus a little bit, just to get that focus away. The haka's not there to, look cool on the camera and all that stuff. It's a challenge. You need to live up to it. So, yeah.
Let's wrap it up this way. Your standout players, Eddie, your standout players, Tebogo, and your standout coaches as well.
Oof.
From this weekend.
That's a tough one. I think I'm going to have to go for Bundi Aki that he mentioned, definitely, the inside centre of Ireland. George Ford of England. Louis Rees-Zammit of Wales. And I need to go for a South African as well. I'm going to have to say Mani Lebok.
Oh, interesting to say Mani Lebok. I didn't expect that.
I mean, he's got a man of the match. He got a man of the match in that first one. He's an absolute talented player. He's playing in his first World Cup. Give the guy a break. I really think that Mani Lebok's going to become even better and better. I'm really hoping for that. He's going to play a pivotal role when the URC season starts for the Stormers again. His focus is now on the Springboks, and I'm really thinking that there's so much pride in it. So it's brilliant.
Money's definitely gonna. It's just that it's unfortunate that it's our own fans that look at Money and bring him down. But if someone from the New Zealand side plays well, they say, he's going through a rough patch. But for me, my standout players has to be Josh van der Vliel. I think he really, really played well. And in terms of like that ruck and the force that we're talking about, he was absolutely, gunning us there. And then Bundi Aki, I think he played well, in terms of when he was on the pitch. But yeah, other than that, someone else, I was looking for a name that has played well.
And you know who's someone I want to throw into the spanner into the works here? Matteo Jalibert, the fly half of France. He's got this massive shoes of Ntamak to fill. And
of what?
Of Romain Ntamak, the fly.
Okay, sorry.
And so he's really doing a good job in that. Playing massively good. Ramos is taken over the kicking, the fullback. But man, Jalibert is just doing his thing.
He's good player. But talking about France, I think someone for me who, the player that I actually wanted to mention, I just forgot, was Dupont. Actually, the way he played, it feels as if
he's the poster boy.
It feels for me as if he's just got too much time on the ball, and he did everything perfectly. So I think he's definitely one of the players that really, really, really played well. In terms of this week and everything that he did. Just unfortunate with his injury.
Look, we still have a long way to go. It's quite interesting. And rugby goes for a very long time, eh? Rugby goes for a very long time.
You need that rest, in between.
When is Scotland's next game? In fact, did Scotland play this weekend?
Yeah, Scotland played against Tonga on the weekend. Yeah,
they
beat them.
Scotland, after they got a beating from South Africa, people forget about them.
But they still need to play. They still need to play Ireland.
They still need to play Ireland, and that's something that I said. At home, I was like, I wonder if Ireland would be like, hey, don't we want to try and avoid New Zealand? And then it's a different situation because they get in there, Scotland with an upset, and then all of a sudden, we play New Zealand in the semi-final, in the quarterfinal.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would.
Listen,
their pride.
just to wrap it up, let's look into this coming weekend, how teams are going to play in the World Cup. Starting on Wednesday, we're going to see Uruguay up against our fellow Africans, Namibia.
Listen, that's going to be
Come
that's
on.
the one that Namibia came to win.
Yeah.
If they're going to do that, I'm not so sure. Uruguay has played some good rugby, but I really think this is the one that Namibia can win.
They're gonna be gunning that game.
And then on Thursday, we've got Japan and Samoa.
Interesting game.
Oh, very interesting. I'm thinking Samoa can take this one, eh?
They can.
Japan hasn't been on their best.
Yeah. They haven't doing much this tournament.
compared to 2015 and 2019 and all that. Maybe 2019 was because they were at home, but definitely in this World Cup so far, they haven't lived up to what we know them, to be. So yeah, there's a chance there.
Eddie's favorite team, Italy. He's been mentioning it so many times up against New Zealand on Friday.
Listen,
A match.
I think this has the potential to be a cracker. We need to go and look at the team lineups for New Zealand and Italy. If I think New Zealand will choose probably their best side that they can. Italy's going to choose their best side, and they've got some players that can play. So let's see what they can do on this one. I'm thinking the All Blacks are going to take it, obviously.
But we've seen some
But
things so far. Yeah.
This has the potential to be a blockbuster.
Well, on Saturday, there's 3 encounters. There's a team that I had hopes in it. Argentina is playing against Chile. For me, they haven't come to the party as yet. I wish they could have done better. I wish they could have been in a position where we might see them in the quarters. But like we were having that conversation, chances are we're not even going to see them there. But they are playing.
This can also be a nice game because it's a South American derby.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this can also be quite the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. The rivalry. Sometimes you never know how big a game is until you actually, like you're mentioning now, South American giant. You never really know. Yeah.
And then we have Fiji, Georgia, as well as Scotland, Romania on Saturday.
I think out of those, Fiji, Georgia will definitely be. I don't think it will be that tightly contested, but I think it has the potential to light up a few fireworks.
I'm looking forward to some flying Fijians, some Fijian flair, really seeing what they can do. I don't think Georgia's going to be as strong as the other opponents have been. I mean, of course, Australia beat Georgia. So I think this is going to be the match that Fiji can play around a bit, really try some new things. I think it's going to be a tough battle for them up front with the Georgian forwards. They can scrum. So that's going to be interesting. And then, of course, Scotland, Romania. So it'll be interesting to see them play Romania. Of course, us and Ireland already played them.
So we beat them fairly well.
Yeah, we beat them fairly well. Ireland beat them fairly well. I mean, they put 80 on the board. We put 76 on the board. We need to now see how Scotland's going to line up to them. If Scotland beat them by the same score of about 80 points,
There's trouble.
there's trouble.
Yeah. On Sunday now. I don't know about the Aussies, man. Australia and Portugal. Which this could be a game where they just play for fun and to honor the tournament because it's not really looking good for them.
I think Australia's gonna go there to try and savor the moment, enjoy it. Especially if they watch and Fiji wins that game, then they'll definitely go in there just to go and savor the moment and enjoy everything else. Portugal will come, of course, with with a little bit of fire. Like they did against Wales. Definitely. So they will definitely not be there to just be pushed around and all of that. Like they mentioned, I mean, the captain of Portugal did mention that they don't really have a large amount of players that are contracted, that are professional. Most of them are amateurs. So, but I think they will not just be there to take this game lightly.
The last one on the weekend, the Springboks up against Tonga. We've already touched on it. But what fire cracks can it give us?
I don't really know if we're going to go for firecrackers and statements and all of that on the weekend. I'm thinking that everyone's going to get their specific role. And I'm thinking that we need to focus on that roles, to look forward to the quarterfinals and if we go beyond that. So I'm not seeing fireworks. I'm seeing guys maybe having a few positional changes, having some guys coming into the lineup. some having a rest. Of course, we've got to buy the weekend after that. So we've got a 2-week period before we play our quarterfinal. So we can still play our strongest lineup if we really want to. If they're going to do that, I don't know. But I really think this is an opportunity to get the guys like Kane and Moody in, get a Dion Fourie to start, and so on.
Quite interesting, but we'll see what happens in the weekend. But for me personally, I don't think this is going to be an exciting weekend because, I mean, the teams that we wanted to see play against each other has already played, and now it's just waiting to see the quarterfinals, who's taking on who. Which at this point, it's a bit quite obvious what might happen, but you don't want to be that guy who, because surprises can still happen.
You don't want to miss anything.
You don't want to miss anything.
So don't miss anything. Make sure that you tune in.
Because as things stand in Group A, Italy is in second position and New Zealand is in third. Potentially.
I mean, there's
after this week, it could stay that way, and we don't have a New Zealand.
And New Zealand now.
Make my year. Make my year.
I don't know if you remember in 2019, Italy was a mess.
Need to win.
And I mean, they haven't come out of the group stages ever before.
Yeah.
Imagine they beat the All Blacks to do that for the first time.
In France.
I mean,
Such a
fireworks.
You know what? Make my day, but then after that, it makes losing to
To
Ireland
Ireland
very
much
sour.
worse.
It makes it sour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But gents, thank you so much for having this chat with us and for gracing us with your presence. We always enjoy having you. I enjoy watching the both of you agreeing and disagreeing.
Luckily we're not married. Imagine that. I mean, having to share a house, but I mean, he is my right hand guy. He is the plate. I'm the food.
Yeah.
Always a privilege. Big so thanks for having us, my man.
For sure. Most definitely, we're going to see it next time. We're going to see it when we go to the quarters for sure. I think we're going to, I'll talk to the producer. We might pull something nice, go do a viewing somewhere with a live audience, and we don't just enjoy this chat by ourselves, We enjoy it with a live audience in the quarters, because you'll never know what would happen from there. but we must just enjoy.
Sign me up.
I'm ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Will there
But
be food?
as always, as always, I don't walk away without saying this. To whom much is given, much is expected. To whom much is expected, much is required. Every champion that is a champion today was once a contender who refused to give up. I'm Big P, the greatest. God willing, I'll see you next time.